Hey everyone, this is Sue. Welcome to Blue Heron Hill. Last video I talked about my garden plans. This video I'm actually diving into it. I missed the filming of the actual filling in these beds, but that may be actually better than seeing me toiling in the heat with endless loads of fill for these raised beds. I'll show you the progress I made. Here is one of my raised beds that I increased the depth, and I filled it to within 3 or 4 inches of the top with some of my chicken bedding, and then a few leaves, and then some topsoil, and then finally dressed it off with maybe 2 to 3 inches of compost. Mixed it in just a little bit. What I had in here, I had some wintered over lettuce and kale, and I think maybe some Swiss chard made it through, parsley also. But I dug all of those up, and I just replanted the kale here. I have it in another area too. Here is some of the lettuces that I dug up, and I just plopped them in this container here. This had tomatoes in it last season. But I'm going to put those back in this bed, give them a drink of water, and I think we're supposed to have some rain tonight, so that will help this bed settle in, and the nutrients from the compost is going to filter on down. This is going to be a rich bed. I'm expecting some good harvest out of this one. There we go. My orphaned lettuce have found their forever home. Going to give them a short drink of water, and off they'll go, and they'll head up very nicely. They'll be beautiful specimens. Now let's take a look at all that was done on all of these raised beds. This has a few kale plants, one right here in the foreground, and a few back there, and I think there's even a parsley back there. This is my bean trellis. If you've seen some of my other videos from preceding years, you'll recognize that. Here, I just planted the peas right along here. They will be a short crop, and they will fruit early, and then once they've finished, I will pull those up, because on the other side, I will have my beans starting to grow. So they're going to follow one right after another. Here is my 2 larger beds here. They've all been topped off with composted leaf material, chicken manure, a little bit of topsoil, and a good couple inches of rich, luscious compost. And these I usually have my brassicas. I actually planted potatoes in this bin, and when I was amending it, I found 2 potatoes. I'll put a picture up here. So these brassicas are going to go in both of these beds this year. This bed, if you saw one of my previous videos, I had brassicas planted here, and I had a bit of disaster because the chickens ate the broccoli and the cabbage. Well, they were struggling to survive, and I just decided to go with a whole new planting of those crops. I pulled out, this is Chinese cabbage. I pulled that out of this bed over here, and I am going to replant it in this bed. So they've been sitting in this little pot for just a half a day while I finished up this bed for them. And that's what I'm going to do right now, is get them back in the ground without too much of a shock. All planted. Now, I won't advocate for doing this. These plants have been through a lot. You can see on the leaves, this is where the chickens feasted on the leaves, but already I've got new growth here. And then right after I did that, of course, I dug them up and amended the bed. I don't advocate doing that, but when life gives you lemons, you got to figure out a way to make lemonade. And you can see here's another leaf that got nibbled on by the chickens, but there's lots of new growth coming up. Here's a tiny little one, new growth here. All of them seem to be putting on new growth despite the trauma that they've gone through. We'll see what this new jolt to their system brings. But I'm pretty confident that these will bounce back. So stay tuned and see what happens. Now these gardens have been pretty much disassembled. I'm going to have to put my hoops back up for this one so they're protected from the insects. And that one is going to have to get hoops over here also. And my netting, my drip line for my irrigation system is going to need to be put back in place. But I've done a great job in revitalizing these raised beds. I mean, every year I would give them a top dressing of some of my compost, but this year called for a total rehaul of these gardens, nearly. Raising the level in these raised beds is going to make a huge difference, especially where I plan to plant carrots in some of these over here. And they had sunk to a level of probably about 4 inches. For growing root vegetables, you want nice, fluffy, deep beds. And that's what I have right now. Having a very shallow bed is not going to be ideal for root vegetables. So hopefully that this is going to add a boost, give a boost to all of my root vegetables that I grow in a few of these beds down here. So this was a quick video on how the beds turned out. The last video I talked about the plans for my garden. So this is a start. I still have my main garden to take care of over there. It's still under tarps, but it's nowhere ready, and nor is the calendar saying it's ready to put in tomatoes and squashes and peppers and a few of the more tender crops. So until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt, happy gardening. Bye.